Well, this week we put a spotlight on global social innovators making an impact on over 100 million people across the world. The Schwab Foundation recently recognized 15 social entrepreneurs at the World Economic Forum, and one of them is a scientist and genetics expert who started a reading revolution in Jordan, which has now spread to more than 60 countries. Let's bring in now Rana Dajani, founder of We Love Reading, and she joins us now live from Amman, Jordan. Rana, thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word. I took a look at your research, and it reveals that many children in the Middle East do not read for pleasure anymore. And it is the same trend here in the Philippines. Why is there less interest in reading for fun, Rana?
Well, this is actually a trend that's now global, unfortunately, and across socioeconomic sectors and all sectors. And the reason is because parents don't read aloud to their children. In the past, a parent, even as early as when mother is pregnant, should actually sit and read aloud to her child. Because when she does that, as the neurons connect and make connections in the brain that's developing, there becomes an association between the feeling of happiness and security that's associated with reading that stays with the child when they grow up. So when they're happy, they like to read, and when they're sad, they like to read. Now, reading for pleasure is very important. Children read, they go to school, they may read for other reasons, but reading for pleasure in particular is very important for the growth of the imagination, the building of critical skills and thinking, learning vocabulary to express yourself better. So instead of being violent, to have words, learning about other communities so you're more empathetic and you're more comfortable with ambiguity and more respectful and better at communication. And lastly, when you read about other children in stories, you get the courage and the confidence to be the hero and become a change maker in your own community as a child growing up.
You know, Rana, when I talk to a lot of kids here in the Philippines, I keep on telling them, read, read, read. Read anything. Read magazines, read books, read the news, because it really expands your knowledge, it expands your vocabulary. And of course, you mentioned an effective solution is for parents to read aloud to their kids, even when they're in their wombs. So up until which age should they read aloud to their kids?
So when I started this, when I noticed this, I started starting with children that are young. The younger, the better. The more older, the more difficult it is, but we should never give up. It's about like finding a friend. You don't give up on finding a friend, you just keep on trying. Now, the idea is that I started reading aloud to my own children, but that's not enough. I wanted to reach out and reach every child, because I feel it's a crime for a child not to discover their inner potential and the world around them. So I started gathering children in my own neighborhood, in the local mosque, and reading aloud to them for fun, and most importantly, in your native language. Because if you're going to read in another language, it's homework. It's difficult. It's about the early language that your mother brought you up on. So I started reading aloud to the children in the local language from stories that are local, and this helps in boosting identity and feeling of confidence. And after 3 years of trial and error, I kind of reduced it to the most empirical formula, where it still works with minimum input of time and money. And then I created an organization, and it became a training program to train women, men, youth from any age, from 16 to 100, how to read aloud as an art, and how to gather children in a public space. It could be a church, a community center, under a tree, on the stairs.
Anywhere.
The person who's reading aloud becomes the expert.
And Rana, your initiative, We Love Reading, has been so successful that it's now in over 60 countries. When do you plan to introduce We Love Reading in the Philippines?
We want to. So I hope people are listening and will reach out to us, to our website, where they can actually take the online training. It's in 10 languages, but we want to translate it into the local language in the Philippines. So we look forward to volunteers to help us translate it so that we could reach every home in the Philippines and even beyond. The program has been called a social movement. And it's so simple because it's based on universal values that we all share, yet it is flexible enough to be implemented within the local culture. So the volunteer, we call them We Love Reading ambassadors, they gather the children, they set up the time that fits them, they choose the right location, and then they start reading and they share with us their stories, because they are the true champions and they are the winners of the award. And
Absolutely.
by the way, the program, what we realized, is not only about education. And because during COVID, it became like a placeholder. When kids are out of school, at least their parents are reading aloud to them, so they remain engaged. And as they fall in love with reading, they become lifelong readers and lifelong learners for a future that we don't know. But at least now, through reading, they have the critical thinking skills, the curiosity to find the resources they need. And this is so important, especially in vulnerable communities.
Thank you so much for your inspiring story. Rana Dajani, one of this year's social innovators, joining us live from Amman, Jordan.